Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome to this video, guys. My name is Liaquat Zaman, and this is my YouTube channel, Roots of Knowledge, Uruq al-Ilm. I also run a website called uruq.com. I have a lot of courses on there. You can check it out. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's start then. So this series is dedicated to helping you guys understand Hanafi Fiqh. We're going through the Kitab Mukhtasar al-Qudoori. So first of all, as you guys know, we basically just write down the meaning of words. That's as simple as that. So let's write down Hajar. Hajar is preventing, banned. There's actually a more specific word for this, which is interdiction. So interdiction, like this nice long word. Interdiction is basically putting restrictions, putting sort of like a ban on on an individual, limitations. Hajar. Sound like the word stone, isn't it? Al-asbab al-mujiba. Asbab means causes. Yeah, causes. Al-mujiba means necessary. And hajar is interdiction, limitation. Sighar is being a minor. Riq is slave, being a slave. Junoon is being insane. Okay. ولا يجوز التصرف, it means dealings. صغير, minor. إذن, permission. إذن is the opposite of hajar. Okay. ولا يجوز تصرف العبد إلا بإذن سيد is the master. These words have come before. مجنون is insane. مغلوب is overpowered. على عقله, عقل means intellect, judgment. وانباع من هؤلاء شيئا, باع means to sell. اشترى means to buy. يعقل is to understand. يقصد means to intend. Wali is guardian. These words have come before anyway. Ajaza is to permit. إذا كان فيه مصلحة, it means interest, benefit. فسخ, it means to void, nullify. Ma'ani, matters, meanings. Aqwal, statements. Af'al, action. Sabi, minor. Majnoon, you guys know all these. Aqud is contracts. Iqrar, it means is to confess or to admit. Talaq is divorce. Itaq, emancipation. Atlafa is times two. Atlafa yutlifu itlaf, it means to destroy. And lazima, it means to become necessary. Daman is compensation. And then aqwal, statement. Nafidha, it means enforced. Haqq, it means right. Nafidha, enforced. Mawla, master. Aqarra, it means to confess or admit. Lazima, to become necessary. Hurriya, freedom. A lot of these words have come for. Qisas is retribution. And yunafidhu is to apply. Okay, so you guys got the idea of that. Right, now I don't want to kind of like go through a lot of these when you actually, really know. You guys will know this anyway. Okay, كتاب الحجر. هذا كتاب الحجر. مبتدأ خبر. الأسباب الموجبة. This is the sifa of asbab that becomes the mubtada. للحجر ثلاثة is the khabar. So this is going to be صغر. الرق. الجنون. لا يجوز. التصرف is the fa'il. الصغير مضاف إليه. إلا بإذن وليه مضاف إليه. لا يجوز التصرف. So تصرف is the fa'il of يجوز, and عبد is the مجرور. بإذن سيده. لا يجوز تصرف المجنون أو المغلوب به على عقله. Okay, so all that is مجرور. بحال, in any case. من باع من هؤلاء شيئا is the مفعول به. أو اشتراه وهو يعقل البيع ويقصده. فالولي بالخيار. ولي is the مبتدا. بالخيار. إن شاء أجازه, this is a فعل. كان فيه, إذا كان فيه مصلحة اسم of كان وإن شاء فسخه. وهذه المعاني الثلاثة توجب is فعل الحجر. حجر is the مفعول به في الأقوال دون الأفعال. أما الصبي مبتدأ والمجنون لا تصح عقودهما فاعل ولا إقرارهما عطف onto عقود ولا يقع طلاقهما is the فاعل of يقع ولا إطاقهما فإن أتلفا times 2 فعل times 2 شيئا مفعول به لزمهما الضمان. ضمان is the فاعل of لزم. أما العبد عبد is the مبتدا فأقواله نافذة. So this is مبتدا again and this is خبر. في حق نفسه غير نافذة في حق مولاه. فإن أقر فعل بمال لزمه بعد الحرية ولم يلزمه في الحال. وإن أقر فعل بحد مجرور قصاص عطف لزمه في الحال. وينفذ طلاقه is the فاعل and if this is مجهول ينفذ then this is going to be the نائب فاعل. ولا يقع طلاق مولاه على امراته. Again, this is all straightforward. I don't want to spend too much time on this because the masail I believe are more important to focus on. Alright, so this chapter is to do with the chapter of interdiction. Right, so interdiction is basically where, let's say for example, there is an individual and this individual has obviously rights. For instance, like for example, buying, selling, marriage, divorce, and so forth. So what can happen is if this individual mentally is not well, then all of these things are going to be harmful for him. So what happens is the Sharia will step in and the courts will put limitations on their dealings, right? And these limitations are restricted to qawl, okay? Qawls, not actions. So if they did something wrong, then there would have to be compensation. But it's all the qawls which like buying and selling qawl and marriage qawl, divorce qawl, and all that kind of stuff. Right? So this is to do with that. There are 3 types of people who this is actually referring to. Okay, so there's 3 types of individuals here. So you have the person who is the minor, yeah, so minor, kid under the age of puberty, and then you have a slave, and then you have a person who is insane. These are people whose dealings are limited. The Sharia will put limitations on them so they don't harm themselves, yeah, because they don't really know what they're doing. So this is why he says, Kitab al-Hajar, the chapter of interdiction, al-asbabu al-mujibatu lil-hajri, the causes, the reasons, asbab al-mujiba, which necessitate hajar, are 3, thalathatun. Sighar, minor, or being under the age of puberty, underage. Riq, slavery. And junoon is insanity. Right. Wala yajuzu. Okay, so therefore now, if you have a minor, slave, and insane, the law will actually step in and put restrictions. If anyone has ever bought from them or sold from them, then the family of that individual can ask the court to step in and to stop that from happening. Right. So for example, like over here, he says, لا يجوز تصرف الصغير. So the minor has to get permission from guardian. Yeah. Okay, so guardian has to give permission. So he says, ولا يجوز, it's not permissible, تصرف الصغير, the dealings of a minor. So let's say it's a 5-year-old kid and parents have bought him toys and now he goes and starts selling his toys to, other people out there. Not allowed, إلا بإذن وليه, except with the permission of his guardian. Guardian must give permission. And as for the slave, so the slave does not have a guardian, the slave has a master. Okay, the mawla. Okay, the mawla is his master. So ولا يجوز تصرف العبد, the tasarruf of the abd, the slave, is not permissible إلا بإذن, except with the permission of his sayyid, his mawla, his master, same meaning. And as for the majnoon person, then the majnoon person is not really like these two, because the majnoon has no understanding of what is right or wrong at all. Yeah, so this is why the majnoon, he says, لا يجوز تصرف المجنون. The tasarruf, the dealings, the financial dealings of a majnoon are not valid. Who is this majnoon? المغلوب على عقله. That majnoon whose mind is out of capacity. Right, so his mind is not there. بحال, in any case. Meaning that even if his family, whoever his guardians are, were to step in and say, you know what, we allow this. No, it wouldn't happen. Yeah, so family or guardians or wali, whoever it is, even then, so that's why there's a difference between this one. So these two can go through, but this one will not go through. The majnoon will not go through simply because of his state. Okay, now what if someone has bought and sold with these people? Yeah, so if someone has bought and sold, so he says, وَمَنْ بَاعَ, someone has sold هؤلاء, these three individuals, something. So there's a guy who has actually, let's call him the seller. He's actually sold them some stuff. Let's say, I don't know, he sold him a washing machine. Yeah, sold these guys a washing machine. The minor, the slave, and the insane. So he says, Man ba'a, whoever sells, min ha'ula'i shay'an, from these people, to these people something, or ishtarahu, or purchased from them. So that would be buyer and seller, and this would be then buyer. Two scenarios. Okay. He says, وَهُوَ يَعْقِلْ, whilst he knows, meaning this can apply to a minor, this can apply to a slave. وَهُوَ يَعْقِلْ, and he understands bay, so he has to be a minor who is of a certain age. So for example, like let's say you have a minor who is, you can have let's say this is a timeline. So 0, 10, 20, so a minor is about there, isn't it? Right, that's roughly where the minor is. So you can have a minor who is about there, and then a minor who is about there. Usually the one which is around about here, sort of like has some sort of aql. They understand a lot of things, like an adult. And the ones underneath, they're like, don't understand. They think everything's just a game. It's just playing around. So he's saying that if someone buys or sells to these individuals, and the yaqil is referring to these two, and the minor is referring to the minor who is of that age, roughly around about 7, 8, 9, 10, that kind of age. وَهُوَ يَعْقِلْ وَيَقْصِدُهُ, and he is intending the trade, meaning that he knows what he's doing. فَالْوَلِيُّ بِالْخِيَارِ, then the guardian has a choice, بِالْخِيَارِ. إِنْ شَاءَ, if he wants, أَجَازَهُ, he can allow it to go through. إِذَا كَانَ فِيهِ مَصْلَحَةٌ, when there is an interest in there. For example, he buys something on a really good offer, washing machine, and the wali finds out, whoa, that was actually a good trade, that was. Or he sells something for a good price, and the wali says, you know what, that's actually beneficial for the person. Then he can allow it to go through. وَإِنْ شَاءَ, but if the wali wishes, إِنْ شَاءَ, if he wills, فَسَخَهُ, and he can nullify this. Right, now obviously this does not apply to the insane, because the insane person, isn't really kind of understanding at all what's happening. Right, so then that wouldn't really sort of like work over there. All right, next. Then he says, if there is someone who is one of these three individuals, yeah, he says either they are a minor, or they are a slave, or they are insane. Yeah. So as for actually, let me just switch this around because I need to put these together. So slave, minor, insane. No, I just did that, didn't I? Okay, let's try one more time. So insane and slave. Okay, so these three individuals. So he says, هذه المعاني الثلاثة, these three meanings, meaning being minor, being insane, being slave, توجب الحجر في الأقوال دون الأفعال. these cause hajar in statements, right? So the statements will not be effective, but the actions that he does will actually be considered legally. Those actions can have consequences, but the statements won't. All right, so he says, Amma sabiyu, as for the sabi and the majnoon, so sabi minor, majnoon insane, لا تصح عقودهما ولا إقرارهما. So let's write this down then, so I think it'll make it easier. So their uqud, their contracts that they do, their iqrars, the confessions that they make, or any statements that they claim, and any divorces, talaq, that they issue, and any itaq, any freeing of a slave that they do, will not go through. So legally, the courts can step in and they'll say, right, these contracts, these statements will not be valid, even if they divorce or even if they free a slave that they have, they will not go through. Okay, so لا يقع طلاقهما ولا إطاقهما. So uqud, iqrar, talaq, itaq. Four things. Uqud, iqrar, talaq, itaq. What if they were to damage something? Actions, remember actions. فَإِنْ أَتْلَفَ شَيْئًا, if these two were to commit some sort of an act where they destroyed, damaged property, like someone's car, someone's window, anything like that, لَزِمَهُمَا ضَمَانُهُ, then legally its compensation would be necessary upon them. They'd have to give it if they got the money. What about the slave then? So slave is a bit different. Okay, slave is more like a normal person. So the slave's statements regarding himself will go through, yes, but the slave's statements regarding his master, they will not go through. All right, that's the difference between the two. Okay, so he says, أما العبد فأقواله نافذة, the slave, his statements will go through regarding في حق نفسه, if it's any statement that is related to himself. In other words, if it's a statement that will bring some problem for his master, that won't go through. غير نافذة في حق مولاه, it won't apply to anything that is related to his master, that's going to cause his master some problems. فإن أقر بمال, okay, let's say for example, he claims he owes someone money. أقر يقر إقرار, he owes someone money. لزمه بعد الحرية, he has to give that. So let me write this down. So he will have to give. So he claims he owes someone money. This is not affecting the master currently. So he will have to give that because he doesn't have any money at the moment. He will have to give that بعد الحرية, when he becomes free. So let's say for example, this is the timeline, and he becomes free, let's say in 2024 he becomes free. So here is where he was a slave, and now because he's become free, over here all of this, anything that he claimed that he owed, will now be necessary over here. Right, the courts will now make it binding upon him. Okay. وَلَمْ يَلْزَمْهُ فِي الْحَالِ, and however it won't be necessary upon him in the current state whilst he's a slave. Okay, next. وَإِنْ أَقَرَّ بِحَدٍ, what if he claimed that he had committed one of the major crimes that necessitates had, legal penalty. Right, so the legal penalties, there's 5 of them. Okay, so they are a person who drinks wine gets 80 lashes. A person who steals gets hand cut off. A person who fornicates gets slat lashes or stoned. Number 4, a person who accuses someone of slander or fornication, he slanders them. And so these are the crimes. And if you know the 5th one, let me know. Right? If you know the 5th one in the comments, put it in the comments. Let's see if you guys know the 5th one. So if he does any of these, if he does any of these, what is going to happen to him? So he says, in aqarra bihaddin, if he claims, he confesses that he's done one of these. O qisas, qisas is murder, retribution. He claimed that he killed someone and his life has to be taken. Lazimahu fil hal, then even whilst he's a slave, those will become enforced upon him. Right? وينفذ or ينفذ طلاقه, his talaq will be enforced. ولا يقع طلاق مولاه على امراته, but his master divorcing his wife, his wife, the slave's wife, that won't happen. So if the master says, right, your wife's divorced, it's not going to happen. And that's it, guys. Right, so let's summarize what we have covered today. Let's see if you guys understand it. So he says, okay, question. What does hajar mean? Interdiction. Okay, so when limitations are put onto people. Who are the people limitations are put onto? There's 3 people: minors, slaves, and insane people. So if any of these was to do anything, then will it happen? So if it's a statement, it will happen. If it's an action, it will happen. If it's a statement, it won't happen unless the guardian gives permission or the mawla. And in the case of this insane, it won't even happen at all. What if someone buys and sells to these people? What will happen? So we said if the person buys and sells and these people understand what's happening, it will go through. And that's in the case of the minor and of the slave. In the insane case, it won't go through. And that's only if the guardian, he sees a benefit in there, some sort of interest, and then he'll allow it to go through. Okay, and what about when you say that the actions go through, but the statements will not go through? This is because statements are attached to contracts, and those contracts are legally binding. So that's why the law steps in and stops them. As for actions, this necessitates compensation, so they'll have to give that. What about if a minor and an insane person was to do a contract, or iqrar, or talaq, or itaq? Doesn't go through. What if a slave does those? If a slave does those, they will go through because it's to do with himself. And that's it, guys. So I hope you guys benefit from this. Let me know if you have any questions about this, and inshallah I will try to answer them. Thank you to all my patrons for supporting my channel. It means a lot to me. If any of you guys want to support my channel, then please check out the description below, and you can contact me on my emails in the description below as well. And I will see you guys next time. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.